All right, my peeps, welcome back to Real Estate Bites. Coming at you most Fridays. I know it's been choppy lately. Out of the last 4 weeks, I have missed two, but I think I'm back on track. I know I'm going to be out of town on Friday the 28th, and I haven't figured out how to broadcast or schedule these broadcasts in advance like I once was able to. StreamYard made some changes, and maybe I'm just not smart enough, but I've been struggling to figure out how to save and schedule a broadcast. So at any rate, here we are. And today I want to talk about whether or not you're ready for your first real estate investment and why I think it's important. So, I've talked about wealth creation a number of times on this show, and I encourage everybody out there to start considering wealth creation and going about it. I mean, listen, in this Western society, the only way to achieve freedom is to buy it through the creation of wealth. All right. And the reality is this also, if you're a good person out there, please go and obtain wealth. If you're bad, please don't. Right. But there's plenty of bad people who are out there working towards their riches and their wealth every single day. And we need more good people worried about obtaining wealth and power and the ability to buy their freedom. So at any rate, the thing that really inspired this show today was a good friend of mine and I, a fellow real estate professional and investor. We talk about this concept of the United States becoming a renter nation. And it comes about, there's so many things that, we see and listen to, and, from things like Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum and his proclamation, you will own nothing and you will be happy. He spit that at the common man, right? So, the world's elite are all in lockstep that us regular folk will own nothing and somehow be happy about that, and so we discussed this thing. And, the thing that really, all the evidence that we need to see is that every time our nation goes through some sort of a crisis, an economic crisis, at least in my lifetime, going back to 87 savings and loan, dot-coms, mortgage crises in 08, 09, COVID, every time something like this happens, and there's this big correction in the market, there's this big economic shakeup, when it all settles, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And this is something I've also heard complained about my entire lifetime. And I personally happen to believe that it's by design. So if the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer, how is it that you get on the upside of that? How is that you get in the rich get richer category? And I believe it's through investing. It's through growing your wealth, which I believe is also measured in time, right? It's how long can you live on the current income you have. So if you got $1 million coming in a year, that's riches. But if you're spending $1 million, and if you're obligated to spend $1 million, which is even worse, that's not wealth. However, if you've got $150,000 coming in a year, but you don't have to answer to nobody, you don't have to, punch in a time clock, you can go and do whatever you want, whenever you want. And if you're smart, not really worried about the bill, that's wealth and that's freedom. So real estate is maybe the easiest and best way for the common person like myself to get into and begin to build their wealth. So what I wanted to do was just open up some resources to you. So here's one of the things too, just to solidify what I'm talking about. I found this article written in December of 23. America will become a renter nation. Grant Cardone. If you haven't heard of Grant Cardone and you're watching this program at all, that blows my mind. But Grant Cardone is one of the most famous real estate investors in the United States. Warns the U.S. could see 100 mortgages. Says we might even rent our clothes. This is not Grant Cardone just pulling something out of his butt. This is a very wealthy man who's much closer to the money and the generation and the source of money and wealth than I am, who consorts with the wealthiest people on earth, who sees the writing on the wall, right? He's reading the tea leaves and he sees what is being created for the masses. And that is our nation, a world as a renter nation, a renter world where The common people own nothing in their own name, and the wealthy, the uber wealthy, own it all. Okay. Now start buying the real estate to change that narrative in your life. Okay. So I wanted to show you some resources about, if you're going to get into real estate investment, the first thing you need to do is educate yourself. You do not want to just jump into this thing. I recommend everybody out there who has ever considered it to really strongly consider it and start working towards your first real estate investment. Okay. 90% of the people who watch this will not do it. So for you remaining 10% who's had this itch, it's time to start scratching. Okay. And here are some resources. Again, this is obviously for people who haven't done it yet. Here are some resources that I would recommend you get into. And I'm going to go way back I'm going to start before you even really start to analyze or research real estate investments. Here's the first one. I want to talk about 4 books and then a website to help you get going. This first book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, he wrote this in 1937. This is to get your mind right. This is to help you understand your ability to create any situation in your life. This is considered the granddaddy of self-help and self-motivational books. Books like The Secret, Atomic Habits, etc. I mean, they all pull and borrow from Think and Grow Rich. And in my opinion, this is still the best one, and you don't need any more. Think and Grow Rich is a book that helps you reset and rewire your mind to start working on your path to growing wealth. The next one, most people have heard of this and heard of this guy, Robert Kiyosaki, a great American, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This book will change your paradigm about the wealth creation process, what's important, where to put your money, why, a real estate investment is maybe the greatest and best way to get into the wealth growing. Okay. The next one, The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason. This was written in 1926, and it's such an easy and small read. And it's really a book that kind of shows you, it uses this cute little story, obviously set in Babylon, to illustrate some very simple and very powerful financial management skills. Definitely a recommended read. I can tell you that the first 3 books that I just mentioned, I buy copies and give them to every new agent on my team. This is one of them as well. This is, again, this little book here will help you to understand why financial management is important and give you a very simple structure to begin. Now, moving on from Richest Man, this book here, Profit First by Mike Michalowicz, this is basically the concept of Richest Man in Babylon. However, it is broken out into a more refined system. It's really focused on business and making sure that as an entrepreneur or an investor or business owner of any sort, you're focused on making sure that you earn a profit and you're never breaking even, and you do so by taking your profit first. Again, he borrowed from Richest Man in Babylon and just really refined the process to be more specific to business, but for sure, it can work in your own personal finances. So those 4 books, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, written in 1937, 60 years later, Robert Kiyosaki wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Richest Man in Babylon, and then Profit First. Read those books, guys. They will give you a wealth of knowledge, innovation, and ability and skills to go about doing this. Now, once you've prepared yourself mentally to get into the investment space, there's this website called Bigger Pockets. It's also a podcast. These dudes, Brandon Turner and Dave, I forget his name, I'm sorry, but these guys are brilliant. They have created maybe the best single resource for would-be or even experienced real estate investors. I mean, you can see they have so many things on here. They have people who advertise deals. You can network with other investors. You can put deals together right through this website. They have a store right here where you can, they got books, they've got pre-orders, they got all kinds of stuff, all kinds of resources. They show you how to analyze deals. It's just the greatest online resource for real estate investors that exists. So get the books, ready your mind, go to a place like biggerpockets.com, get the education about investments that are specific, and then start shopping, guys. Okay. That's how you prepare. That's how you get into it. Obviously, if you're local here in the Northeast Ohio area, give me a call, give one of our team members a call. We can definitely help you get going. All right. So moving on to this week's statistics. Here we are in episode 82. This morning, there were 356 single-family homes and condos available for sale in Lorain County. Guys, all-time low inventory. It remains. It is the name of the game right now. This whole thread of what we're talking about on this week's program, these house prices, you see right here, column F, the median home price for homes sold in Lorain County this past week was $285,101. Okay. I do not see any relief in that coming at any time. They're talking about getting inflation under control. Yet if we see any sort of correction in the stock market, a big correction, I fully expect the current administration, as well as any administration, to dump a bunch of money into the economy, to stimulate it, to get things back on track. And that will only create inflation, and that 285 will only continue to creep up. Without the correction, as you can see, we really sort of plateaued with median square foot values over winter, but it has been creeping up. And so even though I didn't have a show last week, I took the stats. But I mean, take a look. We're in the mid 150s for weeks on end. And then for the last month, look at these median square foot values: 168.91, 166.98, 173.83, 170.09. Prices continue to creep up. The biggest pundits, the NAR, they all said that they believe that prices would increase again by another 2 to 5% this year. It doesn't sound like a whole lot, but when you're talking about a $300,000 home this year, that means it's $315,000 by the end of the year. Okay. Median days on market last week was 28. Last week, the conventional interest rate was 6.79%. It remained the same this week. And the big sale of the week was just over $1.25 million in Avon Lake. Let's go ahead and take a look at that big guy. There it is. Okay, so 6,300 square feet, 4 beds, 5.5 baths on a 0.37 acre lot in Legacy Point. This big monster sits right next to the golf course there in Avon Lake. It is that $1.25 million, 1.27 million to be exact. Not anything that we haven't seen before when I show these. Obviously, everything is beautiful. Everything's gorgeous. The architecture is modern. It's beautiful. The details are all there. I think that price is a function of the massive size of the home, the square foot value. You can take a look. I mean, it's what you would expect, right? For $1.27 million, everything's beautiful. Everything's pristine and state of the art. Yes, indeed. That's the basement there, of course. I do like this. You can, they got a TV hidden behind there that's set into the wall. Nice big fireplace and flat screen there in the basement. Yeah, it's beautiful, as you would expect for $1.27 million. Well, all right, folks, that wraps it up for episode number 82 of Real Estate Bites. We're back on track. I will see you next Friday. As always, thanks for joining me. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. I love you, people. We'll see you next week.